Hey guys, so welcome back to Naomi's Scrappy Retreat. I wanted to show you, well, I was hoping to do a little garden tour, but there's construction out there and I just don't like to be out there when all the construction guys are out there and they're doing their thing and all that. So hopefully I can do a garden tour a little bit later on. I did go ahead and prune some of what I saw while I was out there. So I wanted to go out and pick some basil because I want to make a tomato salad. So there's two ways you can make it. There's my typical way of making it is tomatoes, basil, oil, a little bit of spice, and then some some balsamic vinegar. Sorry, I had a little brain freeze for a second. So that's one of the ways I used to make it. I used to make a long time ago panzanella, I think is how you say it. I used to make it the Tuscan style, which is really just your crusty bread, your tomato, onion, basil, that sort of thing. You can always also make this a third way. You can also add cucumber to it. Now, typically, I like to make all of my tomato salads with either a red onion or shallots, but I don't have either one. So this is the only onion I had. So this is what I'm going to go ahead and use, but I'm going to kind of mix the two. So I just wanted you to know that if you're making this, there's a couple of different ways you can make this. And all of them are great. And so, but this is how I'm going to make it today. I've never actually done it this way because I'm actually adding mozzarella cheese. When I make my tomato salad, I put the mozzarella cheese. And I've never actually made panzanella with mozzarella cheese. So it's going to be something new for me. And I'm hoping it turns out well. I think it will. Like, I'm not really worried about it. But I used to make panzanella a lot before I went gluten-free. I used to buy a lot of crusty breads because I like crusty bread and soup. That's how I like to make my grilled cheese sandwiches, was with a crusty bread. So a good Italian bread, a good ciabatta bread, anything that has a good crusty bread. And then I just always, usually I always used it because I could never use up a loaf or, one of those breads in time. So usually it was a couple days old, but then I also throw it into the oven and just kind of toast it up a little bit as well. So what I've already done today is I've already toasted up in my little toaster oven the couple pieces of bread I had left. So this is just an Aldi bagel. It's an everything bagel. Love these. These are one of my favorite gluten-free bagels. And then this is just some regular gluten-free bread. Use whatever you have on hand. And honestly, this may be too much for what I need, because this is the bowl size that I'm going to be using. So, it's probably too much, but it's okay. I can put them aside and use them as breadcrumbs for something else. I'm not worried about it. So, one of the things you do is you use what you have on hand. And of course, like I said, I typically use red onion or shallot, and I don't have that. So I'm using what I have instead of going to the store to get something else. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have this fresh basil from out in my garden. Now this basil is actually already starting to turn yellow. I'm not really sure why. So it could be a lack of watering. It could be a lack of sun. It could just be that it's seen its day. I mean, I'm not even sure how long it's been in the container pot because I bought it from a local hardware store. So who knows. So I'm going to add fresh basil, but I'm also going to add dried basil. And I love this freeze-dried basil. It's from Lighthouse. I get a lot of other freeze-dried herbs from them because they just seem to have the best that I have noticed. When you freeze-dry it, it allows a lot of the taste to be preserved. I think it also probably enables whatever nutrients are in there to also be preserved, but I'm not really sure about that. But it makes logical sense to me because it's a freeze-drying process, so it's a quicker process. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this in the bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and do I'm going to go ahead and cut up some tomatoes. So what I like to do is just use some tomatoes, and I didn't rinse these first, so excuse me for a second. I like Romas. These are not necessarily ripe, the ripest Romas. I also like to use like a cherry tomato when I'm doing it. I don't typically make my tomato salads with a regular slicing tomato. You could, because they have a lot of juice, and really for this type of a salad you want the juice. So it really is, you know, depending on you and what you want to use. And again, when you're cutting this up, you just do the size that you want. So you don't need to see me chopping all of this up. So I'm going to fast forward or probably pause it. And then that way you can see when I come back, I'll have the tomato already done. It's like magic. All I did was I chopped up 3 of those Roma tomatoes. They were very big, so I just used 3 of them. When I make the panzanella with the bread in it, I don't like to use, I don't like to make a lot of it because of the bread in it. When it's gluten bread, when it's regular bread, it's not that big of a deal. But when you put gluten-free bread in it, it changes things, and so the consistency changes and it just becomes yucky, I think. So, you know, I don't know if you have a lot of experience with gluten-free items, but the consistency is always different. Like, there's bread and things that I eat that really have the same texture as regular bread, but if it's left different, if you try to use it for something different, it changes how a normal regular gluten bread would react, and it's really odd. So anyhow, I just want to say that. So what I like to do first is I actually like to add some salt to this. So as I am cutting everything else up and making my excuse me for a second, making my vinaigrette that's going to go on top of it, I like to do that just because it helps to go ahead and draw some of the moisture and the juices out of the tomato ahead of time. Now with it sitting, it will go ahead and do that, but because, you know, we are putting the bread in there, I wanted to go ahead and try to get some of those juices started and get some of those flavors in that. And like I said, this tomato wasn't really the greatest as far as condition wise goes. So let's go ahead and chop up the mozzarella, because we can do that ahead of time. You can use whatever mozzarella you have on hand. That is a fresh variety, a fresher variety. I'm not really sure how to say that. I'm just fighting with this mozzarella. Okay. So I'm just gonna, these are actually slices. They come pre-sliced. I know it was pretty odd me showing you like that. He and I both like a lot of mozzarella in it. So I'm just gonna take 3 slices, slice it down the middle, and then slice it into 3 or 4 cubes. And then you can just start breaking away all of the little cubes from the mozzarella and putting that in. So I will speed through this because, again, you don't need to see this part of it. So when you're looking, really when you make these salads, whether you're making it with cucumber, whether you're making with bread, it really is your preference of what you prefer the most in it. Again, like I said, I make a kind of like a Tuscan style variety of this panzanella, but then I'm also adding the mozzarella, and I would have to look it up to see if they used to, but I know when I used to make it, I didn't put the mozzarella in it. It was just the bread, the onion, and the tomato. So anyhow, that's how much mozzarella there is, and I'm just going to stir it up. That way you can kind of gauge how much, and again, this is totally up to you. And if you wanted to add a cucumber at this time, cucumber is a really nice fresh addition to this as well. You could use a regular cucumber, or you could use the, I think they're called English cucumbers, the really long skinny ones. So that's kind of it. They're kind of, now you've got the green going through it. The last thing I'm going to do before I make the dressing then is just cut the day-old bread. and that I've toasted up. Now, it's funny because when I toasted these in the toaster, they were a lot harder than what they are now. So I probably could have toasted them a little bit longer, but I didn't. So hopefully this will be okay. So, you know, you can, again, what you use just depends on what you have available. Like I said, when I used to make this, when I first started making this, it was because that's what I had extra, and I didn't have a lot of money. I was a college student, so, when you don't have a lot of money, you tend to use, what you have because you need to. As I've gotten older, though, I have tried to use what I can because I don't want to waste. I still throw out more than what I would like to use or what I would like to, but it's so easy to throw things away, and then you look at, and I don't have a lot, but what I do have, I know I have more than what other people have. And so, I've seen, I've worked in food banks and I've helped in food kitchens where people don't have a lot. And so it helps you to appreciate more of what you do have. I took a missions trip to India and Pakistan with a group from college when I was in college many years ago. And, their culture and their ideas are very different, but the people we were with were very hospitable. One of the places, and I'll never forget, it was this mud, which we'll just leave it at mud, packed house. And you go in and there's really no light in there. You see the light from the fire and that's it. And one of the things that they did was they had made dinner for us. Well, when we left, and we weren't really that hungry, but it was an insult to not eat. It was an insult to refuse. So that's how they took it. So we ate. Well, then when we left, we were told by our guide that the food we ate was actually what they were going to eat for that night, which meant they had nothing to eat. So it was a family with children. And so that really touched my heart because that made me more aware of how much I really do have and how much I have to be thankful for. So, I'm not saying this for anybody else. It's a reminder for myself that, I really can be still very wasteful. And so I just have to be mindful of that. I know I went off on a tangent again. I apologize. So look, I have this much bread, and that's going to be more than enough bread. So I have 2 pieces here that I am going to make into breadcrumbs. So next time I make a meatloaf, which is what I made in the last episode, we'll eat that. So we'll need that. So the other thing I'm going to do is crushed garlic. So yesterday I forgot the garlic for my meatloaf. So I wanted to show you 2 ways to crush garlic. 2 of the ways that I like to do. I'm actually going to use 3 cloves. And these come already peeled and all that. This is one of those wasteful factors because I never use it all the time. But it has been very hard to find garlic around here, and I'm not sure why. So one of the things I have is a grater. So it has little teeny tiny holes in it. I have another one too that has a little bit bigger hole. You can use whichever one. And so it's really easy. You just grate it over top, and it becomes really, really fine. So let me grate some down here so that I can pick up and you can see, what it is. So what I do when I'm grating it is I actually hold it. There's like the root end of it. I don't know if you can see that. So the root end of it, and I hold it just like that when I'm grating it. So when you get done grating it, it's very fine, like super, super fine. So that's one way I do it. The other way I do it is just by taking the root off, by chopping it very fine. And this, again, I don't have mad chopping skills. I don't have mad knife skills. So the easiest way for me is just to continue chopping it. However, when you get it down a little finer, and if you want crushed garlic, then what you do is you just add some salt to that. Because what that does is now it's better if you have coarse salt, but what it does is it acts like a grinder. So when you take your knife and run it over it, so what you want to do is you want to hold it down, put your hand on the blade, and then push away from you. So again, put it in a pile, push down, push away, push down, push away, push down, push away. And in no time at all, oh my goodness, it smells so good. I love the smell of garlic. So in no time at all, you've again gotten some paste on your knife, and that's done. So I was gonna put 3 cloves of garlic in, but those are pretty big cloves. You know what, I'm gonna still do it anyhow. So again, you can do it either way. Depending on the type of day I'm having. If I'm having a stressful day, I will crush. But on a day like today, when, you know, just wanting to get things done, this is easier. Or if I'm trying to keep salt out of my diet, which I don't need to, you know, then I take it over the little grater and get it done. So all we have left to do now is just to do the dressing. So this is, again, no science to it because I put in it whatever looks good and that's it. Your basic rule though is going to be to add about 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now I like balsamic vinegar. You can use other vinegars, but I never have. I have seen other people use other vinegars, but I love balsamic. So, and then I just add about 1/4 cup on top of that. So I actually think my measurements was a little off on the olive oil. I was talking too much. So then of course, I like to add cracked pepper. Now this is one of those things you can add cracked pepper, or you can actually, you know, just use regular ground pepper that you have in a container. And why I like doing it all in one container, I like to go ahead and put the seasoning and everything, is that way it's evenly distributed. And of course my love of the lemon pepper. And then my last thing I'm going to do is just add some more of the dried basil, just to give it some extra depth from the dried basil, because it does have a different potency to it. And then that's it. So I'm just going to stir this up. So anyhow, as I was saying, when I add all of the seasonings to everything, it allows everything to mix better. And then that way, when I pour this over top of the salad, everything is incorporated. Like, I'm not going to have a clump of black pepper. I'm not going to have a clump of basil or anything like that. So that's why I go ahead and mix all of my spices and seasonings into the oil. So I will probably use that to taste test it in just a second. And then we're just going to pour this over. Yeah, so that was a lot. But I think it may be okay because there's a lot in here, but that is a lot. I can see it. So you can hear the salad crunching, and I can tell you already that by the time I go to eat this tonight, the salad's going to be too crunchy. So usually what I try to do is make this right before I'm going to eat, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to eat tonight. Let's go ahead and try this. I'm just a little off today. I'm not really sure why. So let's try this. You can taste the basil. You can taste the olive oil. You can taste the balsamic vinegar. It is so good. And you put this in the, you can eat this just like this, or you can put it in the fridge and have a cool afternoon refreshing snack. This is great to take on a picnic. So good. The bread picks up all of the juices and all of the seasoning, and it is just such a great combination. And when you add it all together, it's very yummy. So I hope that you enjoyed it. It was just something quick and easy. Hope you give us a like, and hope you come back and see me again. So just a little closet cooking with Naomi at Naomi's Scrappy Retreat. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day. So be a blessing to someone else, and God bless.